Nope, I didn't like that. Hold on. Okay. Hey.
Hello. They're doing construction or like roof work on the house across the street, and I keep hearing it. Hopefully, the microphone doesn't pick it up, but
Hopefully
it should
not.
be
I'm
fine.
thing right now, so.
Okay. Um, I think this episode, just except for the end, was actually pretty mild.
Yeah, and short.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
which
didn't
I
go into it or I didn't leave it being like, oh my god, like we usually do.
yeah, it felt like a episode that was just like a carrying the plot. Like there's more. It was a filler, not a filler episode, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Again, except until the end.
yeah.
Okay, you ready to get into it?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Are you watching? Are you watching this? Are you watching? Yeah. Are you watching this? No. You need to get with it. Are you watching this? We on a TV shit. Are you watching this? You don't wanna miss. Are you watching this? Stop canceling our shit.
How do I want to start this? Okay, I'll do it this way. This is the Are You Watching This podcast? Last episode I said that, so I'm correcting it this time.
Again, we'll
I'm
get.
Chelsea F. Huh?
Sorry, I was just gonna say again. We'll get the hang of it one of these days.
Eventually. Yeah. I'm Chelsea F. And Mr. Milchek did tell me that I was watertight material. Oh,
I
wait, hold
don't
on.
know
No,
why.
it's a winter tide material. Gosh.
Winter, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, it still landed. It was still funny. And I'm Ellen E. And I don't like the term sharing vessels. No, I feel
Mm-mm.
like no. It felt like they were trying to make fetch happen, and it just did not land for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a pause in our recap for that moment.
Okay,
Maybe we could take a 9-second pause.
I'm for it. I agree.
All right. Well, let's get into it. So we're recapping Severance season 2, episode 6, titled
Mhm.
Attila. Um, and the first couple of scenes, I mean, we have some stuff going on, but it's nothing too complicated. We pick up from the last episode. Mark is talking to Dr. Ragabi. Looked it up,
Love
made sure to
that,
wrote it down multiple
and,
times.
and sounded like you pronounced it really well too. So love that.
I think that's how you say it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's talking about what he experienced during his last blip of reintegration, where he saw Miss Casey slash his wife, and he's very emotional. He's like very distraught by what he saw, which, I mean, it was real, right?
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
memories are combining, so it's like he actually saw his wife in real life for the
Yeah.
first time in multiple years.
Yeah. I mean, first time since her death, right? So that would shake anyone up, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Dr. Agrabi too in this scene is she's being, I don't want to say patient, but she's really listening to Mark and what he's feeling, and she's being very understanding about it, which I like. So it's
Yeah.
very like kind of a calming presence in that moment.
Yeah.
I am starting though to question, and I started to think this last episode, we don't really know this lady.
At all.
What's her credentials?
We don't know.
What is she doing here?
At all. And if we really think about it, Pete, right?
Mm-hmm.
He ran away from her technically.
Mm-hmm.
So what is she doing here? Are her motives, are they as like kind to Mark as we are being led to believe, or they wanted us to believe in the beginning? Yeah, I don't think so.
You know, okay, so that's what
No.
I was gonna ask. Like, how do you feel about her? Do you think she's more malicious, or
I
like, what do you
don't
think her intent is?
I don't know if malicious is the right word, but I mean that last scene with the I don't know, craniotomy is what I'm gonna call it was But I don't think malicious is the right word. I just think she has an ulterior motive.
What do you have an idea of what that ulterior motive might be?
No, because we don't know anything about her. All we do know is she worked there. I don't know. I feel like Lumen did her dirty, but to what extent, I have no clue. Do you have a guess? Yeah,
No,
I don't know. Like, we don't know if she's a mother. We don't know if she's a, you know what I mean? Like, we know nothing, truly.
no, yeah, and I feel like at some point we have to learn more information about her, right?
Yeah, I would hope so. But again, there's a lot happening. Where I was even like this episode too. We'll get to those points, but I was like, okay, yeah. So if they reveal it, cool. If they don't, cool.
There's bigger fish to fry currently.
Exactly. Yeah.
Then after that happens, we go to the team, and they are in the MDR kitchenette. Dylan is telling them about the hallway that Irv told him about, and then he's telling them about the drawing with the directions that Irv left for him in the new break room behind the poster of him actually being brave, as Helly called it.
Yeah. Shout out to her humor. She was killing it. The scene.
Yeah, yeah, because she asked, like, oh, did everybody get their balls severed when they came to work today?
Yeah. But the poster one is the one that got the real laugh out of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dylan walks away because he doesn't want to get in trouble currently. He's got, a hot date with his wife later, Audie's wife. And
Big
so, yeah. And he walks away, and then Helly's kind of talking to Mark about going to get the drawing herself. And while they're talking, Mark has another little blip.
Yes. A little integration experience again. Dr. R called it. Was it Dr. R? She did call it something.
She called it a crossover
Oh, yeah.
event experience, something like that.
Yeah, which I guess.
That's what I keep calling him, a blip, because it's like these little.
Blips in time. I feel like blip that was used in a show I used to watch, and I can't remember what. I wonder if it was like Fringe or something. So when I hear that word, I associate it with a show. That is not the show.
In this scene, I really liked the visuals because at the end, it's Mark in his kitchen, but it's the MDR kitchenette in his sorry, what were we gonna say?
No, go ahead.
The way that Ben Stiller talks about it in the podcast is that they legitimately build it into the other sets.
Oh wow! So it looked like in real life, if you were to walk into that set, it would have been half MDR, half his house or living room. Oh, that's really cool. That's very, very cool.
Yeah, because he was talking about when Petey was having his blips in the basement, they brought the actual walls in and these segments of the carpet so that it was actually there, which I thought was really interesting. So they're being very kind of traditional in the way that they're filming, doing everything as much in real life as they can.
Yeah, which is really cool because that scene was very sci-fi. And I mean, you wouldn't be wrong to assume it was not generative AI, but like some sort of process, you know what I mean? Not actual sets. And it was cool camera work and cinematography.
Yeah. And then after those two scenes, we get the title scene. So it's kind of interesting. Again, we don't get very much before we go to the title scene.
Yeah. And I feel like the first half of the season, we had a lot happening before the title scene. Yeah.
After the title scene, we have Miss Wong. She knocks on Mr. Milchick's office door. Her hair in this scene just really threw me off, or I guess this whole episode, because it's parted. I had to look at it or really compare because I couldn't tell exactly what was not bothering me, but throwing me off about it.
Okay.
And it's because her hair was down the middle, and usually when she wears a barrette, it's parted to the side. And then she has two really big barrettes in her hair.
Yeah. How did it make you feel? What was the purpose you think they were trying to give?
I don't know. I felt very uncomfortable by it. I don't know why, but I did.
I did too. Well, I I noticed it, and I think it just made her look more childish to me.
Okay, I could see
Yeah,
that.
and I think I was like, that scene was Milchek kind of being like, "Yo, I'm still your boss here," and maybe it was done purposely, like hair and makeup was done purposely, so we could see the difference. Because sometimes we experience her in a very like adult role, right? Yeah,
Yeah, he definitely. This is another scene where we're seeing kind of their relationship, and he's taking authority over her.
yeah, that's
Because
the word.
in this whole episode, this is kind of this is the first time we see Mr. Milchek in this episode, but he at no point looks happy. He's not doing his like enthusiastic mannerisms.
Yeah,
And so she walks in, he looks a little moody. They kind of discuss his performance review. And then he brings up or reminds her that she cannot graduate the fellowship. So we learned that her job is a fellowship of some sort
yeah,
until he decides that she is wintertide material.
yeah.
I Googled what wintertide is or to see if there's like any association with that word. All I found is that it's an old English word for wintertime.
Okay.
That's it.
And again, so far, when we are on the outside, all we do see is that Lumentown is in constant winter. So whatever that means, we don't know yet. They haven't revealed anything about that. It was a very like okay, new information being told to the audience, but yet we have no context around what it could be about.
Exactly. And the way that the scene ends is he tells her that he's going to be busy the rest of the day and asks like, "Oh, you can, I'm sure you can look over the floor." And she's like, "Yeah." And then he says, "At your own desk." And she looks so disappointed by this.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I understand in a way why she reacted that way, but also why would she assume that she would like get to sit at his desk?
I agree. Maybe it was like the child in her being like, "Oh, I get to play boss," you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only excuse I can come up
Yeah,
with.
I don't know. I didn't quite understand that interaction, but I wonder if it's one of those things that'll kind of play out down the road,
Yeah. Yeah.
or maybe we'll start seeing these kinds of
I
reactions
mean,
from her.
yeah. I mean, we still have no fucking idea why she was brought on this season. And I hope it's revealed before the end of the season. I'm guessing it will be, but at this point, they've dragged it on for a little too long for my liking, where it's like the reveal better be like a moment, you know? And if it's not, I'll still watch the show.
Will you? And then we get to the lovely scene. Mark and Helly are having a secret conversation in one of the bathroom stalls in the MDR bathroom, kind of being
Yes.
whispering. Mark is telling Helly about how Milchek confronted him in the elevator the other day. They're kind of having this like back and forth. She's like, "Oh, he's trying to intimidate you." And while she's kind of working through what had happened, Mark is trying to tell her, and the way he phrases it is that he and her shared vessels.
Yeah. And for those who can't see, I'm silently laughing.
Which was his way of telling her that they had sex.
Yeah, which I understand the person who wrote this episode was trying to do something with their pen in this moment. But for me, it did not hit the term sharing vessels did not hit the way I feel like they wanted it to.
Or they wrote it and they're like, "Oh, people are going to hate this."
That's
And then
very kind of you, Chelsea, to think.
and now we remember it. Like I will remember that for a very long time.
Sharing vessels. I am gonna try to forget it because that's how much I don't like it.
I'm going to keep using that phrase around you then.
Oh God, please don't.
Helly is very taken aback by this, and she initially thinks that Mark is telling her that him and Miss Casey had sex, like during a wellness session.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, it was us during the Ortbo.
Yeah. Can I just say it was very funny how Helly was trying to be like cool about him and Miss Casey, and then when he really like explained further, her face just the switch was really funny.
Yeah. She didn't really, I mean, she didn't react very overly angry at this, but she was very confused and was like trying to process the information.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm going to go for a walk.
Yeah, 100%. For me, it was like she was taking a moment for it to like sink in, and then we see Mark like over explaining himself immediately because he realizes like now she's in her because she really doesn't say anything. So he's just trying to fill the silence as she is letting it sink in.
Yeah. So on the podcast episode that Ben and Adam do for this specific episode, they were talking about filming the tent scene in the Ortbo episode. And the way it worked is it was on a soundstage in the tent. It was just the three of them on air mattresses.
Really?
Yeah, and they were just kind of just describing it and how funny it was because like it was really hard to stay stable on the air mattresses.
Yeah.
And so like they were like falling over, and I don't know, just
wait, which the last episode Orbo tent scene?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. And yeah.
Did they? I'm jumping. Whatever. But did they explain why air mattresses?
I guess because like the tent set up that they were sleeping on air mattresses.
Okay.
So that's what they were working with.
Okay. I guess. Yeah. I felt like there were, what are those, not like, it was like, first of all, I feel like Lumen has enough money to have provided them, those like platforms.
Like a cot?
Yeah, like a cot. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, probably. It was an air mattress though.
No, it froze again. Okay, you're back.
Okay. But it just made me think, whenever I watch intimate scenes on a TV show or movie, I'm always like, if I was an actor, I don't think I could do that.
No.
Do you think you could do it?
I'd like to think I could, yeah. But I talk a lot of shit, so. But I do think, yeah, I think so. Would you be interested to find out if you are capable of that?
No, not really.
Okay. Okay, fair. I don't know if I am capable, but I'm interested to find out, especially just having an intimate scene with someone and it's work. Like, that would be cool to find out if you have that in you.
Like, so that you like are just treating it as work and not having a physical response to the actions.
Yeah, but I feel like you would be having a physical response to the action.
It would be hard not to.
Yeah.
Unless you're just like completely repulsed by the person.
Right. And even that is a response, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
You could even still be like, I mean, not to, take it here, but there have been hookups where I'm not really into it. It was all consensual, but I wasn't really into it. You make the other person think you're more into it than you really are, right? So that's a form of acting, and I feel like women are really good at that.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That
I think you have that in you.
Yeah, that part I do have in me. Yeah. After this, we just see Helly. She's walking around in the hallway. She takes her shoes off to be comfy. That was like a little teaser clip that they put online.
Can I shit on people on the internet because they're all ridiculous? I don't know if our listeners are on Twitter, and I will always call it Twitter, but people on Twitter were, when the clip got released last week before the episode, they were guessing that she was taking her shoes off because she was pregnant. And I just need everyone to shut up. Just shut up. Just stop. Just stop. I love that there's conversation happening and we're like nerding out and geeking out. But come on, Okay, that's all I got to say.
It was a bit of a stretch. Not a bit of, it was very much a stretch. And it's not like she's Bella and Twilight. Like she's not getting pregnant at like rapid speed, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. Like literally this happened last week. Your feet don't swell like that. And if anything, we'd see other signs of pregnancy before the feet swelling.
Yeah, she'd be throwing up in the back. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. But we are watching a nerdy show, so we're probably watching it with a bunch of birds. I'm kidding.
At least a bunch of other nerds.
Yeah, okay. That's kinder.
There's just like a quick frame of Mark at his desk. I don't really know why we saw that. And then we have another scene. It's again, we have a lot of these little quick frames kind of setting up scenes down the road.
I feel like it was what I wrote about these, like the frame to Mark and Helly was just them both. Just what did I write? Okay, I guess I didn't. Well, I think it was just them trying to process the conversation they had and work their way up to running into each other later. Which you can go ahead.
Then there's a quick little frame of Mr. Milchek in the back office, and I wrote about to spend the rest of his day paper clipping. And here I'm gonna do it. After I watched this several times, and I watched it again today, I was like, you know what? I'm going to Google if there is a correct way to use a paperclip.
Okay.
And that led me down the rabbit hole of reading 5 paperclip patents. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Thankfully, the patents were only like 2 to 3 pages.
Still a fair bit of reading.
Yeah. Also, those were the 5 I read. There are multiple patents on paperclips.
That's crazy. Do they look different?
Some of them do, and some of them. So the paperclips that he's using are called gem paperclips, and they were invented. I don't remember the person's name, who did not file a patent for their paperclip design, but they filed a patent for a machine to make them.
Okay.
So then other people have filed patents for that design, but they make changes. So like, you know how sometimes they have the little grooves in the metal and stuff like that. But then there's also the different shapes.
Okay. Got you.
Come to find out, it doesn't matter. Like in the patents, it doesn't say if there's a front or back. They do explain how the different loop sizes impact how when you use it to bunch up a lot of papers, the more papers, the thicker it is, they'll twist. And so they're like making changes on the design so that it won't twist and poke the papers. And but come to find out, there was not a specific answer. It's personal preference, and I cannot believe there are people out there putting the big side on the front.
It is nuts. I wonder if there's somebody in the writer's room or something that did that, and then they just included it in the script to like poke fun or like have a little Easter egg of, their little group or whatever. You know what I mean? Because I have been alive for 30 years of my life, and I've never seen anyone do it the way Milchek was doing it.
Well, yeah. So I'm going to need answers from Ben Stiller. I need him to it was just a thing that I just never even thought about it.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like it's such an inside. I feel like it's an inside joke somewhere because it's. It hasn't been. It's never been conversation. It's never. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you. We need answers, Ben. Where did this come from?
Yeah, it's. At least I think I've come to the official conclusion is personal preference, and we'll leave it at that.
I mean, even though it really bothers you.
I just never thought about it. And so to think that that's how people do it, I'm just like, what in the world? How have I lived my whole entire life thinking that like this is how everybody did it? And no, It's something as simple as the way you use a paperclip.
Yeah, I agree. But humans, that's
Yeah.
the beauty of all of us.
Yep. So after the paperclips, we have Dylan and his Audi's wife. They're back in the family meeting area, and they are discussing how Audi Dylan has had a lot of phases. So he did like scuba diving, woodworking, and beer making.
Yeah.
And I wrote down hard relate because I too feel like I've had many of those like phases. Do you
Aw.
feel, have you had like different phases like that?
Not really. Like I'll try anything once, but I think I zone in on like what I know I enjoy and
Mm-hmm.
just like try to get back to that if I don't for a certain period of my life or something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But no. Can you tell us some of your phases? I need to hear some.
Well, so I've done knitting, I've done crocheting,
Mhm.
I started doing beadwork, I've done cross stitching, I've done photography where like I've produced like processed my own film and like printed my own photos
Oh
on photo
shit.
paper. And
Okay.
yeah, I've done like we've talked about. I mean, I think if I think I can do it, like I will try
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I will hone in on it for at least some period of time.
Yeah. That's very interesting. And very interesting. I don't have that in me. But would you say you're not afraid to then like fail technically? Like, do you go into these hobbies being like, I feel like I can do this, or like for sure you're sure, or you're not very sure, but you're just willing to see if you are?
I succeed until I get to the point where my skill set is being challenged, and then I stop.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Putting it like that, I know from the jump my skill set's going to be challenged, so I don't even try. I'm like, that's not, and then I'll get frustrated, all
Hmm.
that stuff. Yeah.
It definitely, I think it's really interesting though, and it's something that I kind of recently have been talking, like I would say in the past couple of years, because as an adult, it really started to weigh on me that, so I started talking to friends and my therapist. People ask you all the time, and we've kind of talked about this, like, what do you do in your
Yeah.
spare time? And we even talked about one of the reasons we wanted to make this podcast is that people can say watching TV,
Yeah.
because that's the answer that I want to give.
Amen to that. Me too.
But it's not a response that people
Respect.
respect, or even like it doesn't often carry the conversation.
Yeah. We could carry, oh, clearly we could carry the conversation, but yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
Versus people like my husband, he has played guitar since he was a teenager, he's climbed since he's a teenager, and so he has these skill sets that even if he doesn't do for a very long time, he can go back to them, and it's a continuing part of his life. And
Yeah.
I've never had that consistent theme. I just it's just sprinkled with all these different weird phases that I get into.
Okay. So you never go back to the crocheting.
I mean, I'll make a blanket or a hat every once in a while, just if the mood strikes me, but it's not something that I do every year or like every month or anything like that.
Yeah, I feel you. Okay. But TV is something you do every year, every month.
It's something I do
I
every day.
Yeah. I think we're going to change the world with this podcast and make it respectful, and you can carry a conversation if you answer with, I just watch TV, dude. That's what I do with my spare time. There's so much to talk about regarding it.
So much.
Yeah.
So much.
Sorry, can I just add
Yeah.
when Gretchen was describing Dylan's Audi doing all these things, I loved Dylan's response being like, maybe I'm trying to find something I excel in. I thought that was just so kind. Yeah, I was like, oh, yeah.
Well, but then the follow up broke my heart because she says that she's concerned that Audi Dylan's not happy.
Yeah.
And he says, that can't be it because I'm happy down here with you. And I
Yeah.
was like,
I know. And then the whole conversation takes a dive for me. Yeah.
Yeah, because we see Dylan's outie and he doesn't really seem happy.
He doesn't. He kind of, yeah, it just seems like he's lost his spark and for his marriage and life. And yeah,
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you think that she is being reminded of how Dylan used to be, or do you think she's seeing a version that she's never seen before?
that's a great question. I think she's seeing a version she's never seen before.
I'm starting to think the same thing because I yeah, I initially thought it was, oh, this is how he used to be when we first started dating, but
Yeah,
I think it's a side that
she hasn't seen it before.
mm-hmm,
I only say that because I think I don't know if it's, I mean, she did it the first time they had their interaction, but I think she also does it again in this scene where she does a great job of being like outie Dylan and innie Dylan. Like
mm-hmm,
she separates them. And I feel like if Dylan reminded her of outie Dylan or how he used to be, she would like you know what I mean, melt the two together and kind of fantasize about it more. But I think she really is separating the two.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Noticing her separating them. Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end, Dylan asks if they can hug again or try hugging again because he really liked it, and so they have this very awkward, sweet hug.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I don't know if it was you who said, I think it was. I think it's from the first couple of episodes from the Ben Stiller and Adam Severance podcast, how I don't know if it basically you said, or I think it was you who said that this season was more adulthood, them coming into adulthood,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and last season was them being like children. I feel like this episode was a great example of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I made a similar comment in a couple of scenes
Yeah,
or
we can
in a
talk
couple
about
of,
it more later. But this hug kind of like, I was like, oh, it started from this scene for me.
mm-hmm, especially for Dylan.
Yeah, exactly.
Then we just have a couple of quick frames. We have back to Helly. She has her shoes off. She's sitting on the floor in a corner, being very emo. We have a frame of Mark at his desk, Dylan and his Audie's wife hugging, Helly crying, Mark thinking, and then Dylan and his Audie's wife kiss.
Yeah, yes. You said that like so excitedly.
Because it was so cute.
You liked it? You loved it? You loved that for them? Not like, I'm not making it weird, but did you like that for them?
I feel bad for his wife
Mm-hmm.
because I think, it's obviously making a very complicated situation for her.
Yeah.
But I know that she's happy about it, at least in that moment. So
Yeah. Ugh, I hated it. I was like, no. I was like, ugh, why are we doing this? We know this is no. Yeah. Anyways.
I understand that point too, though, because we've
Mhm.
talked about, yeah. Well, then you don't like the next scene. The next one is Mark and Helly bump into each other, and they're both going to look for one another after they've kind of separated, had a little breather.
Yeah.
And Helly has come to understand what happened, so she accepts that, she's not accepts, comes to terms with that Mark really did think it was her, and
Hmm.
that Helena kind of tricked him.
Yeah.
And Mark asks if she wants him to describe what happened.
Yeah. But like, have you heard? I've never been cheated on that I know of, but have you heard of people who have been cheated on and then they're like, describe everything that happened?
Yeah.
When I like have heard of those situations, I always think about if I would want something described to me and if it even matters. And Helly's response here is like my response.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because she says no. She wants her own experience.
Yeah. And I think that should be everyone else's response. Like, details don't, that's that experience. It's not going to make it worse or better.
Well, I think though in the example of like cheating, the I don't think I would really want to know, but I might ask questions because otherwise, like my what I could build in my own head would get away from me. My imagination, that's what I was looking for. And so I kind of would want to be like, okay, well, they didn't do this, this, and this. And it would maybe like tamper that a little bit.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be like, I want my own experience now that you cheated on me. Like, bye.
No, I definitely agree with that. Like, we're not taking back a cheater, but more so, I get you would be making up, like filling up the plot of how the cheating transpired. I just think if someone's like, I cheated sexually, everything involved in the sexual category is fair game. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. We don't
Like if
need to
they're
know
like we shared vessels, all right, cool. Like that says everything I need to.
yeah,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah. But I get how people can need to know stuff. I think it just makes it worse.
I just don't even like thinking about it. So they go to find an empty room to share vessels. And they find one. It's filled with desks that are covered in large plastic tarps on the desk and on the floor. And so they recreate the tent experience by making a little fort with the plastic sheets for 2 desks.
This is so silly.
And Helly says that she is nervous. Mark says he is too. And then Helly and Mark proceed to have sex for the first time.
Yeah, this is very cute. That bit was cute.
And that's what I wrote. I said, I like the scene a lot better than the Orpo tent scene.
Yeah.
And because it was a lot more innocent, there's communication, they're giggling, there's a lot of consent going on. And so it's very high school. It's very that like coming of age experience that they have together.
Yeah. Did you see that article that Britt did talking about this episode?
Yeah, but I don't remember what it said.
Okay. She talks about taking the shoe off. And that part, she says that she feels like Helena, dresses her up and shoes would not be her choice. Those shoes would not be her choice. So it was kind of just like a reclamation of her space and her body when she took those shoes off. And then also in this scene of them finally getting it on, she said that her and Adam, the consent part of like them asking each other was not in the script. And it just it just did that naturally. Yeah. Which I really liked.
Yeah, I think it really follows a theme of what has been going on because again, Helena kind of tricked Mark, and so he's really confused. And so this moment, again, they're both making sure, like, hey, we're both good.
Yeah, I agree.
2 things I noticed is that the first time Helena was on top, and this time Mark was on top, and it feels kind of like not a dominance, but like a Helena would be on top.
Yeah, 100%.
And she's kind of the one that instigated the whole situation to begin with.
Yeah, I think that parallel was intentional if that is the case. And pretty cool that they made.
I did. When Drake and I watched this episode together, I made a joke. I was like, what if this is not Helly again?
Stop. I think I would quit watching the show. But no, this
really
time I
funny,
can
though.
tell it was Helly. It would be funny. But I could tell it was Helly.
Okay, sure you could. And then there's this quick frame of the MDR office, and nobody's doing any work. Nobody's there. Nothing's getting done. They're never going to complete Cold Harbor at this, right?
It's like a whole sex party happening down there now. Pretty funny. Someone tweeted like Milchick left for the day and left Miss Huang in charge, and
Yeah.
she's never gonna be a what's it called, winter break or graduate or whatever, graduate or something. Winter whatever. Winter tide material.
Yeah,
she's never yeah.
After they're done doing that, we go back to Mr. Milchick paper clipping. And he, again, still looks very sad, very distraught. He's not having a good time. Mm-hmm. And he revisits his hard copy of his performance review, specifically the section that talks about how he uses too many big words.
Yeah.
So then he goes over to this mirror that's behind on a shelf that's like behind these filing boxes, and he starts to perform a similar exercise that they would in the old break room.
Mm-hmm.
So he's repeating a phrase where he starts off with, "You must eradicate yourself from childish folly." And he keeps repeating it until he finally gets, simplifying it each time, until he finally gets to grow up. And then he just says, grow, very sternly to himself.
Yeah.
What do you think was going on here? What do you think he was doing? What do you, yeah.
I think it was the break room practices that we saw in season 1, and he was essentially trying to break his character that Lumen find not acceptable, right?
Which is funny because everybody else uses weird big words.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to ask you. I'm like, is he the only one who uses the big words?
No.
Yeah, they all use big English old-timey words, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know why they're picking on him then in regards to it. I did note though also in the beginning before he goes off into this self-inflicting whatever pain inflicting endeavor when he's talking to Miss Huang, shoot, when he's talking to Miss Huang, and that's the first person he says the what are the words, eradicate, childish, whatever.
Yeah, eradicate yourself from childish folly.
Yeah, he uses that phrase first with her in that
Mm-hmm.
scene.
Mm-hmm.
And her response, watching this episode a second time, her response, I feel like her face was like she took it in and then she goes, I understand. But I couldn't tell if she really did understand or not. Do you think she's the one who told them about? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
Because
About
she
him
doesn't
using
use
the
very big words.
No, she doesn't. So then when I thought about that scene, I was like, okay, are they making him dumb his words down to cater to her, even though everyone else uses big words? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really understand the reason to bring that up in his performance review, except
Yeah.
to kind of just knock him down a little bit.
Yeah. Poor Miss Milchek. He's
Yeah,
gone through it.
this his scenes in this episode made me really sad because you can just see him. So we've seen him questioning things, and I think in this episode he's not questioning him. He's trying to fix himself to adhere to the job, I guess, because he's dedicated so much time and effort to it. I'm not sure, but he's definitely not questioning himself in this episode.
Yeah, I agree.
Then we have Mark and Helly. They are walking back from their little excursion. They have their little grins on their faces. And Helly asks if it was different with her. And Mark responds by softly but firmly, and while taking charge of the moment, pushing her against the wall and kissing her. And I wrote, "This is the most hot and bothered I've been watching this show."
I agree. I was like, yeah, Adam.
It was like, I was like, oh, that was like, I don't know. It felt very natural, very just like a genuine
Yeah.
response. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I was just like, ooh,
I
okay.
agree. I agree. Yeah, it was beautiful. Very rom-com-y in a
Yes.
effed up sci-fi world.
Yeah, because it's like, to me at least, I know everybody's a little different, but I feel like that's what a lot of women want is like, you don't want a man who's like taking charge and like kind of dismissing you and your feelings and your opinions, but to
Yeah.
have a man to come in again softly, he's not being aggressive and just kind of like,
Yeah.
I'm going to kiss you very intently right now. Although he
Yeah.
doesn't answer her question, so maybe
I
that was a
mean,
way to get away from it.
I feel like the kiss answered the question, right? I feel like taking
Maybe.
charge in that way to affirm, like, no, you're not crazy. I am into you, and that was amazing. And yeah, it was very hot. It was everything I wanted and more. And also, and I even didn't know I wanted from those two, or even Adam in this, because I feel like we saw Adam Scott be sexy playing Ben on Parks and Rec, right? Like he was a nerd, but he had those moments.
I 100% agree with you, but saying that that's his sexy role. is interesting.
Yeah. I mean, but he killed it as
Yeah, he
Ben,
did. Yes.
and his relationship with Amy Poehler. Why can't I think of
Leslie.
it? Leslie, yeah. Um, and I think with the wall kiss is what I wrote it down as. It I wrote it was cool that he did that in response to her asking, was it different with me? Because that's a very teenage kind of like question to have. You at 30 something, you're not going to ask a guy that because they will look at you like you're either insecure. It's just like a childish thing to ask. And we do have these insecurities as women, even as adults. And the way you'd want someone to affirm you is by that wall kiss.
That is that's 100% how I want to be reaffirmed in that
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
Firmly by Adam Scott.
Exactly. Me too. Sign me up.
So when Mark pulls away from this amazing kiss, they notice that his nose is bleeding. So they go to see Miss Wong, who apparently is a trained medical professional, or appears to be more so than Dr. Rugabi.
Chelsea. I said I was going to try and laugh less.
No.
You're cracking me up. Okay, sorry. Keep going.
And so she questions like what was happening or what they were doing when this happened. And Helly says, we were refining something.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not true. And she asks, Miss Wong asks if Mark's had any hallucinations. He lies and says no. And then she's going to take his blood pressure. Again, this is how I think she's more of a professional than Dr. Rugabi, because Dr. Rugabi hasn't done any kind of baseline body measures on Mark.
Yeah.
She's just like, let's
cut you open.
Yeah. And so while she's taking his blood pressure, he has another blip. And what was really interesting with this blip, this is the first time like we go from being on the severed floor and then he's in his basement with Dr. Rugabi.
Yeah.
We don't end up back where he started.
Did that trip you up?
Yes.
Yeah.
I kept waiting for them then to go back to Lumen.
Yeah, I agree. Or for them to mention it was a different kind of like, because there were different scenes.
Yeah, and so this is when she says that it was another crossover memory that was recent.
Yeah.
So it obviously they weren't happening at the same time. Time's relative, I guess. But and she tells him that he will start to fill in the gaps in time all together. Like, it's going to happen until it's all together.
Yeah.
Then she's like, but we need to speed up the process, which could cause a hemorrhage. And what were you going to say?
She's crazy, but keep going.
Yeah. And so she's like, to do this, we're going to flood the chip through the hole that's already in your head. And Mark's like, you know what? I don't really like this. He's irritated. He's hungry. He storms off to go have dinner.
Yeah. That's funny.
Then we have Irv in his car outside of Bert's house.
Yeah.
They're going to their little dinner.
Yeah. Can I ask, throughout this episode so far, did you remember Irving in the dinner? Were you like, oh, were you waiting for the scene? Okay.
Yeah, I was waiting for it because I knew there would be some very nice aspects to it, which we do get. And so I was excited to see that.
Yeah. No, I meant more so because we had so much happen in the first half of this episode, I guess. Did you think we were still getting at Irving at Bert's house for dinner scene in this episode?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I don't know why, but I was just like, yeah, it's going to come. But I did think maybe it would be a lot shorter, or we would just see kind of like the beginning of it.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it'd be the full.
Yeah, play it out. Mm-hmm. Okay.
In the car, it looks like he's taking the price tag off of the wine bottle. And
Classic.
then he combs his mustache, which was so cute.
Yeah.
And then he rings the doorbell. Bert greets him and takes him to the kitchen. And so this is where Fields and Irving meet. And they kind of discuss the last time Irv was there, which was during the OTC, knocking on the door. Yes. And then Fields' response was very interesting because he just said, what is mine is yours.
Mm-hmm. Also, can I just quick shout out to John Noble? He played Dr. Walter Bishop on Fringe. And I was like, cool that he got this role.
Yeah, somebody else mentioned him. I didn't recognize him from anything else, but apparently people were pretty big fans of his other work.
Yeah.
I guess maybe they have an open relationship, but then there's other conversations that make me feel that's not the case.
Yeah.
Because while they're eating dinner, Irv asks Bert about how he came to work at Lumen, and he tells him through Jesus and explains.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that delivery.
Which is also funny because isn't John Turturro is in The Big Lebowski, and I think his character's name Jesus.
Oh, really?
I think
Let's look it up.
I will fact check that one because I'm pretty sure that's the case.
Yeah, it is. That's so funny.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, they explain that their pastor had a sermon telling them that innies are complete individuals with souls that will be judged separately. Okay.
We need more of your thoughts on this, Chelsea.
I don't know how I feel about it. I don't agree with that. Again, I still believe you're one person. I don't think that you have a different soul just
Yeah.
because you're severed.
I agree. It's not like a twin situation or a clone situation per se.
But it's
Yeah.
interesting that this is obviously it's a very divisive topic as they've shown throughout the show. You know, nobody can quite agree on their standpoint on it, but there's a lot of people not a lot of people don't support it.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that there's a sermon at church about it. So then it's now kind of religious.
Yeah, I think it was interesting in this scene how we do get the reveal of, because we've only seen the type of people who are against it, right? Which seemed like everyday working class people. And then I think this is the first time we see, oh, not even see, but we hear about a group of people who are for it. And it's interesting that it is religion based. I don't know if I believe it, but yeah.
Believe, like agree with what they're saying, or believe that the church believes it, or
Believe the church, believe Bert's whole explanation about how he came to become severed.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's yeah. It something just feels weird about it.
Yeah. Also, like, watch. I guess he did say Jesus Christ. I was gonna say watch church. It could be the Scientology. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, and he said the Lutheran Church.
Oh yeah, he did. Which
They're pretty
hilarious 'cause-
liberal.
Yeah. When I was growing up, my parents took us to the Lutheran churches. So, and I haven't been one in over 15 years, but hearing it mentioned in the show, I was like, ah. Anyways, sorry.
Another thing, which we see a little bit more with the Burt and Fields and Irving dinner, but so they live in a house, and it's a very nice house. And so, you know, we've talked about, well, but Burt drives an old car, but they live in a very nice house, and all the other Lumen employees that we see live in very, I mean, they're not bad housing, but it's just very modest, simple
Like
housing.
government housing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I never wrote that down. That was such a simple thing to notice, but
And I think though, we don't know for sure, I guess, but Fields, I don't think works at Lumen. So who knows what he does? Obviously they have more income, aren't living in the government housing. So
yeah, I guess so. Because I think the only other person we've seen with a partner living in a house is Dylan.
yeah. And then Devin and Rickon, but neither one of them are
Neither-
Lumen employees.
Yeah. And Rickon's house seemed like a Lumen government subsidized housing, right?
You mean Dylan?
Yeah, sorry, Dylan's house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. It's very like a
Basic.
family home.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting. I do wonder what Fields does. I mean, he seems like a stay-at-home partner, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Um,
I think with John Noble, like the actor, I think the way he talks and stuff. What am I trying to say? I guess I'm just trying to figure out if he's maybe is a nepo baby in the context of the show. Like, did he come from money and that's how he's rich? That makes sense. Yeah. What do you think? You think that's a possibility?
That definitely is a possibility.
Okay.
We see to Mr. Drummond letting himself into Irving's apartment with a set of keys
Yeah.
while he's at dinner at Bert's. So, which we already kind of knew this, but Lumen obviously has access to where they live and all this additional information. We really saw it with Miss Cobell, and I didn't necessarily think it's because she worked for Lumen. I thought it's because she was creepy and she probably just made like a copy of his key, or maybe even Mark gave it to her because she's his neighbor,
Right.
but she used it kind of outside those boundaries.
Yeah.
And then we jump back to Dylan, but now it's Audi Dylan. He's at home eating dinner with his family. They're talking about, or he's talking to his wife about getting a car, and it's a little tense. But I want to know: is it a new car or is it a new to him car?
That's a great question. I guess we'll see.
It doesn't
They
really
better
matter.
show
We've
us.
talked about the cars a lot.
I feel like, they brought it up a lot. Well, in visually and stuff like that. Yeah.
He then asks his wife how the visit to Lumen went, and she lies and tells him it was canceled.
Of course she lies. Of course. I knew that she was going to lie when that kiss happened. And that's why I was cringing so hard. I hated it. Hated it for me. Blah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I don't love that she lied.
Did you think she was going to lie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't honest about the first visit.
Yeah, exactly. Which, yeah, we'll see how this plays out.
And then we get to another lovely scene. Mark's hungry, so he is eating dinner by himself at a Chinese restaurant. Do you like Chinese food?
I love Chinese food. America does not have great Chinese food. I just need that out there.
Where do you think has really good Chinese food?
Apart from Asia, like a Western country.
Yes. Or no, I mean, just in general, like
Australia. Australia has fantastic.
Is it like
Asian
British Chinese food though?
It's like because the oceanic, like people in Australia go to Bali, Japan, like so easily because the route there is like not long compared to here. So there's a lot of migrants from Asian countries in Australia compared to like here. There's a lot of Hispanic people, right? So the Mexican food or Hispanic food is amazing here. Asian food is amazing in Australia for the same reason. So yeah. Why?
Good to know. I was just wondering because
Okay.
I like Chinese food as well.
Yeah. Wait, have you had British Chinese food?
Yeah, and I've
Not
also
a
seen
fan?
a lot of videos about it
Okay.
because they serve fries, and that's
No,
weird.
it's not like that. No.
Okay.
It's like, fried rice. Like, I do not eat Chinese food in America anymore.
I mean, I love the abomination that we have here for what it is, though. I understand that it's like not traditional
At all. And here's the thing. I feel like if I grew up here and I built like my palate around it, I would understand it. But you know what I mean? I grew up and my palate's not built for it, so I can taste the difference immediately. And I have been hoping I would get accustomed to it like I have Chick-fil-A, but it's not happened. Yeah.
Bummer.
Yeah.
Well, if I ever go to Australia, then I'll make sure to try some Chinese food.
You will have to. Like, number one thing to try.
Because Australians aren't really known for their specific cuisine, so.
No, I mean, meat pies and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah. Lamb. Got amazing lamb.
Oh, I don't like lamb.
You do.
No, I don't. I like lamb better. I don't like goat. Goat is very gamey and it has that grass taste to it. I don't like goat milk or anything.
Okay.
And lamb kind of has it's a slightly similar taste, but it's more mild. So I can eat it, but it's not my favorite go-to.
Do you eat steak?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I like lamb for the texture. I feel like steak and stuff is tough, and I hate chewing a lot. Yeah.
The texture for sure is a lot better.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, while Mark is sitting there shoveling food in his mouth, like an animal.
Back to the Chinese
Yeah,
restaurant food.
yep.
Yeah.
And then look who walks in, Helena. And she sits down at a booth, a couple booths down from him, and she's making googly eyes at him.
Hmm.
And then she goes to introduce herself. And Mark replies, and he's very sassy. He's like, "Oh, I know who you are." And then she sits down with them, and they proceed to have very playful banter.
How did you feel about it? Was it playful? Was it banter? Was it?
The whole like when they're she's like, "Oh, you should like meet my dad." And he's like, "Oh, taking me to meet your dad already." And she's like, "Yeah, I think it's about time you'd be the first." That was like classic Mark and Helly flirting.
I agree.
So I'll just leave it at that.
Um. Yeah, I agree. I Helen is a weirdo, and Helen is a weirdo. I am trying to pinpoint what specifically it was about the scene that I did not like. But I think like we experienced such a range of emotions from her that I kind of gave me whiplash a little bit. I was like, "Who are you?" And it's like, "Are you acting this way because Mark is bringing this out of you, and you're trying to be like Helly, or he makes you act more like Helly?" You know, like I don't. A lot was playing in my head.
Yeah, I think I felt like when they got into the actual like flirting banter, it was a genuine like this is just what each of these people brings out of the other one.
Yeah, it's like what they do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now I think though I don't know exactly Helena's intent going there. Obviously she followed him, right? That was
Mhm.
not an accident.
No, absolutely not.
So that part I don't understand the intent. And then especially when so right the flirting pretty much ends as soon as she brings up his wife and she calls her Hannah.
Yeah, which
She knows her name.
okay, I was gonna ask you, was that purposeful?
Yes, it
Yeah,
had to be.
yeah, I agree. Because she had no remorse even after he corrected her. She wasn't like sorry or anything. She was
Hmm.
just like, yeah. Um, I do want to mention about the flirting. Where am I on my notes? You mentioned how it's just like something they do. Oh, the flirting was also like insulting humor,
Hmm.
which again, I feel like when you know each other well, you can do that. And for them to meet for the first time and have that kind of like banter was there was something more there.
I think it's showing how it's that Helena is like Helly and Helly's like Helena, and that Mark interacts with both of them, and they all interact very similar with each other.
Yeah.
They've had different experiences with each other, and so that shapes it differently. You
Yeah.
know, and Mark knows too that she tricked him,
Yeah. Well,
and so
any mark.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think he kind of is slowly piecing it together because he's seen Helena in some of his reintegrations before
Yeah,
this,
true.
hasn't he?
Yeah, especially before that opening credit
Mm-hmm.
scene. Yeah. Right.
So yeah, it's like when as soon as she says Hannah and he's like, "Oh yeah, you're her," and
Yeah.
I think he gets very uncomfortable and is like, "I don't want to. Obviously, I don't want to be here anymore."
Yeah. Like I don't know you. This is weird. How did you even find me? Why am I meeting my not just my boss, but like the owner of this company? Yeah, very weird.
So he coughs and leaves, and then we go back to Mr. Drummond going through Irv's trunk, and I paused on each of the pages, and all I could really gather that like popped out to me is that he's looking through these papers and it's a list of severed employees and Bert is listed on it,
Yeah.
which we've already kind of seen that paperwork before in
Yeah.
season 1. So I'm not sure what Mr. Drummond's getting out of this except maybe seeing that Irv's kind of looking around at what's going on.
Yeah. Looking for people or no his Audi knows the people in there who have been severed, right?
Yeah, and it looks like he's made some notes. So obviously, either he's contacted them or has done some extra research about them.
Yeah. I guess we'll see. Again, this scene was very much like okay, this is to carry on the plot further down the line.
Yeah. We go. Were you gonna say something else? Okay.
No.
We go back to dinner at Bert's, and Field said something about Bert working at Lumen 20 years ago, which are of questions because he was like, didn't the first severed floor open 12 years ago?
Yeah.
And Bert then kind of looks at Field. It's like, hey, maybe stop drinking so much wine. And then Fields kind of out of nowhere goes, do you think that you guys had sex? Like your innies? And it
Yeah.
was very, very awkward. But he says he's not mad because he talked to his pastor about it and believes that innies should experience love too.
Yeah. Again, I just think the context of church and pastor and whatever religion in this isn't so cut and dry like we are being made to believe.
Yeah. I especially think with these people as well.
Yeah, I agree. What was I gonna say? Oh, is this why you thought they were in an open relationship after the scene with Fields kind of revealing like he's cool if they had slept together?
That, and they didn't really say anything, but there was just this. They didn't say anything um, very pointed at this that confirmed it 100%. But the way they were talking about certain things, it just seems like at least this might have not been the first indiscretion that Bert had had. And,
Okay.
that Fields. And so they kind of have an understanding the relationship because of that or
Yeah.
something along those lines.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that.
We go back to Mark. Storms home. He half-assed apologizes to Dr. Gabi and then says he wants to flood the chip tonight.
Yeah.
So Mark puts his head, I called it the head stirrups, and Dr. Gabi, she cuts open his head, finds the original hole, takes a long needle, puts it through the hole into his brain, and then floods the chip out. Just all in his basement. She is wearing a mask and gloves, so I'll give her that. But like,
I could not stomach the scene at all. I was
it
like, oh, it was so graphic.
and it's in a basement.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, this is not sanitary safe, N- especially the brain, like the most delicate organ. Like, what are we doing here? Yeah, no.
When she's done, she puts a piece of tape over it, medical tape, so I will say that, and then calls it a day. She's like, all
Yeah.
right, we're all good. And Mark's like, how long is this going to take? And she's like, oh, it'll be fast. And then almost immediately after she says that, he has another blip and he's very startled. So he pulls back and she's like, oh, don't move like that, which
Hmm.
I feel like maybe either hold his head down or have told him that beforehand. I don't know.
Yeah. I did love Adam's acting here. It was just a reminder of what he's got in his locker, and he's just such a fun actor to watch.
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah.
And it's so subtle too. I think as such a good sign of an actor is forgetting that they're acting when you're watching them.
Yeah, I agree. Like the reactions are what you would expect a reaction to be. Yeah, I agree.
He hears a knock on the door, which I guess he knows it's Devin because she's like, are you in there, Mark? And he's like, my car's there. She knows I'm here. I have to go. And so he goes up to get the door despite what Dr. Agabi says. He answers the door and he does not look good.
He
He
does
looks
not.
very sick, which Devin doesn't really question.
No, and he's like sweaty. Like, you could ask, is everything okay? Because clearly not.
Yeah, I mean, I guess she knew he'd been sick, and so he's like, yeah, I still don't feel well, but he just really does not look well.
No, at all.
Um, okay, so she asks how things are going and mentions how the floodlight experiment was a bust. And I did not pick up on this until the third watch. Before Mark cuts her off, she brings up a lady that she met at the birthing retreat. She's like, hey, remember that lady I kind of had a crush on that I met at the birthing retreat?
Yeah.
I want to talk about it because it's from season 1, and I think it's gonna come back. It's like one of those things that they slowly piece together. Nothing really came of it.
Yeah.
So, oh, hold on. How do I jump all the way down there? Okay. So she meets that lady at the birthing retreat. After that, she sees her again outside,
Yeah.
and she like goes up to this lady. I don't remember her name, but the lady's like doesn't act like she remembers Devin, even
Yeah.
though they had this whole conversation. And Devin questions to herself, can people be severed outside of Lumen? And we
Yeah.
kind of get an answer to it in the last episode because we see this lady at Lumen at the gala, where Helena is and everything.
Yeah.
And we find out that she's a politician's wife. I don't remember if he's like the mayor or he's running for mayor or
Yeah.
Senate, something like that.
Yeah.
And we find out that, yeah, she probably was severed, at least like while she was giving birth or like the first couple weeks. And that's why she didn't remember Devin. None of this was 100% confirmed, but they definitely were laying it out like that's what happened.
Yeah, 100%. That's what I gathered too when I rewatched season 1. And
So
then, yeah.
I think that was such an interesting, like, little line that I don't think you were really supposed to pick up on, maybe just a little bit and be like, oh, yeah, what about that lady?
Yeah.
So Mark snaps at her and he's like, I'm doing my own thing. And then he asks what the smell is and realizes he can't grab his cup of water, aka he's like having a stroke.
Yeah.
And he falls
That's
to the
exactly what
floor.
I wrote.
And then Dr. Agabi runs upstairs, and that's it. We don't know what happened.
We don't know what happens. Do you think he's dead?
I'm gonna bring it up at the end.
Oh, okay. There's more. Oh, yeah. Wait. Yeah. Sorry. I thought that was the end of the episode. It's not.
No, it really feels like that's where you would end.
Yeah.
Which is, I've thought about that too when I was rewatching it. Interesting way. So the very last thing we have, it's Irving and Bert. They're saying goodbye at the door. Bert kind of dismisses again what Field said about him working at Lumen 20 years ago. He's like, he just gets confused sometimes. And then Bert and Irving talk about potentially seeing each other again. Maybe not with Fields.
Yes. There was a whole thing in the previous episode with Bert and Fields and Irving. And Bert said something like, we used to call each other Hun, but now we call each other Attila. Mm-hmm. And that's the name of the episode. Mm-hmm. Did you look into that at all?
No. I just know that you have Attila the Hun,
Okay.
which is part of like the Hun dynasty and
Yeah.
all of that. But I didn't refresh my memory on the whole story.
All of it? Okay, got you. Okay, so I did read a couple of articles just on the history of it. And it's not conspiracy, but I do think that Bert has something to do with being an Egan, or like the conception of the severance of it all.
I wrote the exact same thing. So I think that Irvin, which we've kind of talked about this, but I think Irvin knows more than he leads on because he asked these questions like when Field said, oh, that was 20 years ago. Bert was like, no. And then, or I guess Irving was like, how is that the first floor open in 12 years?
Yeah.
Irving knows something. And he's not asking that question to get clarity. He's asking that question to see what they're lying about or like what they're trying to pretend is going on.
Yeah.
And just like he did with Helly, right? Like fake Helly, he knew that wasn't real Helly. And so he would ask her these questions to kind of get her to tell the truth.
Yeah, or catch her in the lie.
Or to get more information from her. Something like that.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think the same thing with Audi Burt. He's sinister. You see these overshadows, frames of him. And so he also knows more than he's leading on. And I think it's the bad stuff that Lumen has done. And he is in on it to some extent.
Yeah, which after watching this episode, are you more so like then, I guess this is a big overarching question, but are you more so than like, damn, did any Irving meet Bert on purpose then?
It definitely feels like at this point, now that we know what we know, and kind of reflecting back, that wasn't the first time that they've met.
Yeah.
And Bert, I think, knew that. And I think Irving might have known that too to some extent. Again, because we think Irving is kind of reintegrated or like not fully severed, and so maybe it was
Yeah.
just a feeling, something.
Yeah. There's something going on there for sure.
Yeah, out more than just liking each other and being flirty.
Yeah. Do they even like each other, do you think?
I do think they do.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
and I think that probably just complicates everything.
Complicates everything. Why am I involved in this? Oh my god. Okay.
Yeah, I was talking to my friend Andrew like a couple of weeks ago, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm really liking the recap episodes." And I responded, I was like, "Oh yeah, thanks." And then I was thinking about this. I was like, "That was an interesting choice for us to start Severance season 2. I love that we did it, but like, we didn't make it easy for ourselves."
No, at all. And again, whatever we do next needs to be lighter.
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't know. There's only like 2 other shows I know of that would be more complicated than this one,
Yeah.
and we're not doing either one of those, so I think we should be good.
Yeah, I agree.
So these were my final thoughts, which we already kind of talked about. This episode was, I liked it. It was kind of neutral though. It didn't really answer a bunch of questions, but it also didn't bring on a bunch of new questions. Like I think kind of
Agreed.
not a filler episode, but bridge.
Yeah, carried the plot. Yeah.
Except for what is going to happen to Mark.
Yeah.
And you asked, do you think he's dead?
Yes, do you?
I don't know. I just said, I looked at Drake after we watched it and I said, what if he dies? But hear me out, because then I thought about it again today.
Yeah.
Audi Mark dies. Dead Mark goes to Lumen, and then he'll be on the test/export floor with Miss Casey.
Oh wow.
Because Mark is so important. So if he dies, Lumen's not going to let that body
Oh heck no.
go away.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, wow. But yeah, wow. Yeah.
I
yeah.
don't
I don't know.
I don't
This is above my pay grade.
I don't know. That's just like a thought that crossed my mind. I'm not like, that's what's going to happen. That's what they're leading to. But I did question. I was like, I mean, there's nothing stopping them from killing Mark. TV shows do that all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I was gonna say HBO famously so, but this is not a HBO show. But
No, but yeah.
in this era of TV that we are living in, there is like what's it called? Major characters of a TV show do get killed off, and it shakes up the whole show, and you never see it coming. That would be insane though if they did kill him off.
But I think if he dies, he's not really going to be gone.
Yeah.
You know, maybe he'll be dead for a couple episodes or something. And then we find out more
of if he's alive or not. Who do you think they call for help with him feigning? Like, because I feel like Lumen is gonna they're gonna find out. No.
Yeah, I was wondering that, like, what are they going to do? Because they definitely don't. It feels like they're doing a lot of stuff on their own anyway, so they're not going to. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you think Devin and Dr. R are gonna take him to what's the hospital situation in Lumentown? What
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. We don't know.
We know that Dr. Agabi for sure doesn't trust Lumen.
Yeah.
Devin has her doubts,
Yeah.
a lot of doubts, and so I'm not. I think they'll definitely question taking him to the hospital.
Yeah. I agree.
Calling the ambulance.
I mean, they've got to, because as you pointed out, Dr. R is not a doctor.
I mean, she's a doctor. Just like oh, this is going to be so mean, but in this season of Love is Blind, there was one girl who very much does. She has her doctorate in something, okay?
Yeah.
And so she does have her doctorate. But then she says something like, people are always so surprised to find out that I'm a doctor. I'm like, those are different things.
Yeah.
Okay. You can't phrase it that way.
Yeah, I agree. And I know exactly who you're talking about.
So we're assuming that Dr. Ragabi is a medical doctor.
Mm.
But as I tweeted, I don't think that she's ever been to medical school.
Oh, Dr. R, not too much on her. I agree with you though.
We haven't seen her medical degree, so
At all.
we've made a lot of these assumptions about her that I think are kind of, at least I'm starting to really doubt.
Yeah. She's sort of, I don't know if this is the right word for it, and I'm about to Google it, but she's sort of like a mercenary? Is that the right word?
What do you mean? Like she's
Okay, never mind. Mercenary is not what I was looking for, the word. But she's like a rogue agent, but not even like, but on her own agenda, for her own agenda. So I feel like she'll pick up a skill set just to get to the end goal of what she's looking for, right? Or what she's trying to do.
well, she's definitely willing to risk Mark's life to do this.
Yeah.
She's being pretty willy-nilly about somebody's brain.
Yeah. And it's crazy because I'm like, if you want in on Lumen or something, who else are you going to try to reintegrate? He's kind of your last hope, no? So you think you'd be more careful?
I mean, there's other people, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think Mark is dead. And I don't think I want him to be.
I don't think he really is either. I could see this leading to him getting more this leading to us getting more information.
Yeah, definitely.
What's going on, and some, I think, kind of in a twisted way.
Yeah, definitely.
But
Wouldn't it be funny if the next episode it's just like they have like a cold towel over his head and he's come to life again after suffering a legit stroke? Because we saw those hand movements with the water. Like, you can't tell me he just fainted. It's not what happened.
do you ever get like random chest pains and you're like, this is it? This is the day that I have a stroke.
Yeah, 100%.
So, yeah, I'm very curious to see what's going to happen. Obviously, I mean, but we only have, let's see, so 6, 7, 8, 9, we only have 4 episodes left.
Yeah, shoot. Yeah. Okay. I feel like every episode counts now.
And
yeah,
we've definitely learned a lot, and they've definitely developed the story a lot in the first 6 episodes. So it hasn't been slow by any means, but
no.
And we know there's a season 3, so they don't necessarily have to wrap everything up in a nice little bow, answer, all of our questions before the end of the season.
Yeah. But, answer some. Because my head hurts. It really does. And we are smart, but as you have said, we are too dumb for this show, which is insane. Yeah.
At least I am.
I am. I definitely am. That's why I'm just like going with it. I'm in for the ride, wherever you want to take me. But like, make it make sense. That's literally bare minimum. I don't want it to get too silly.
Yeah, I think that I just hope that they don't, in the next 4 episodes, bring up so many more questions that, okay, yeah, sure, they answered these big 4 questions we had at the beginning of the season, but now we're left with 6 big questions for the next season.
Yeah, I definitely think they're going to leave us with at least like 1 or 2 big questions, or maybe like how answering those questions play out. Like after they're answered, how it's going to play out. Like they did this season, right? Like the cliffhanger for season 1 was like a big reveal of what was actually going on, and then now we're seeing it all play out. Could you give 2?
She'll probably keep barking. What were we gonna say?
I was gonna ask, what are like the 2 big questions you want answered? Just 2 out of the several we have so far.
What's going on with Miss Wong?
Okay, that's mine too. Like, who is she? Why? Everything there.
This is not a question, but because of the theories that are running online, I want confirmation that Helly is not pregnant.
Okay, you're hearing it here first. She is not pregnant. She is not pregnant. I just think that is such a God. I am going to eat my words if she is pregnant. I'm gonna
Remember how certain we
confident
were?
Yeah, right. But fuck it. I'll be wrong. What is it? A clock is right 2 times a day. It's also wrong 2 times a day. So, I just don't think she's pregnant. I just think that is too cheap of a plot line
I will
for
be
this kind
pretty
of show.
I will be pretty upset if that is a plot line that they're following, because I don't know if I said this already, but I don't, because again the theories were that she's pregnant with the reincarnation or like that, Kier. I don't care about Kier.
And I don't think we were meant to care about
I don't care
Kier.
if the Egan family line is continued. If anything, I don't want it to be continued.
Right. This isn't Succession was a show about the family and their continuation of that. This is not about the family. It's about Lumen, right? It's about the severed.
Yeah, and it's about Mark.
Right. Yeah, even more so. Actually, mainly. Yeah. So I just don't I think a pregnancy doesn't carry the story anywhere. I think it's unnecessary for everyone involved. Like Mark doesn't even give a hint of father or like that's just weird bringing that onto him. Ew, I
Well,
would hate it. I would hate it.
it wouldn't be his baby. Like
Stop.
you think he's gonna have any kind of like,
I mean, it would be his baby. It's one person.
I don't know, but like legal, like he's not seen that baby.
You think he's not? You think if he finds out about a baby, he's not gonna want to see that baby?
He should just mind his own business.
Uh,
I just need confirmation because I hate it so much.
I
And
agree.
I just need to know that that's not going to happen.
Well, you should just be like me and think it's not. I read it, or I watched that video you sent me, and I was like, no, just no. And you know what? If it happens, Ben is gonna get a really, and Dan are gonna get a really strong written email from me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I will
Big
first need to know
words.
about paper clips and then
and then that I'll include that in the email.
Yeah.
And I'll use like big words like Milchick does.
all right, I guess that's this episode. Did you have any other final thoughts, comments, feelings?
No, I actually liked this episode because I feel like it didn't make me use my brain a lot, and I needed that reprieve a little bit from constant back to back big things happening. And it was cute seeing the cute shit play out too. I think getting to see the characters not so serious or intense all the time was really cool.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about Friday.
As always. Yeah.
All right. Well, then I guess we will talk to you guys next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Are you watching? Are you watching this? Are you watching this?